I'm Benedict. I'm heading the Mindbreeze efforts here over in the US. We're originally an Austrian company, just started here a year ago, and yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you about our take on emerging technologies. And I was really thinking about what is actually an emerging technology, because machine learning, AI, object recognition, OCR, that is all buzzwords you probably heard a ton of times over the last few days. And from my perspective, it is actually, those kind of technologies are actually tools to gather even more data, because suddenly your algorithm is able to detect objects that are in an image, or suddenly you're able to get back the text, the spoken word of an MP3 file, and now you have it as text files. But all that you're doing is actually having even more data than you had previously, right? So my take on emerging technology today is actually what we already heard in the previous talk. It is simplicity. So you want to really boil down to a certain use case, and you really want to know what the end user is using your enterprise search application for, and arrive at the right answer immediately, or as immediately as possible. Sure, search and all those algorithms, they add to the total package, but where you actually want to arrive is you want to find the exact business process, and you want to then enhance it by having those kind of technologies in place to arrive at answers. So what I'm going to start with now is a hands-on example what we see at some of our clients. So this client came to us, and they were starting out, as a lot of our clients do, with an Active Directory, a database of people. Then they were having a dictionary, a database of different ingredients and different diseases, so a lot of context information around that. And the third kind of data source we had was a file share with lots of study data, white papers, research data, all kinds of stuff. So what do you think is usually the requirement we get from those kind of customers? They say, make this searchable. The problem is, in the end, the adoption rates are low, and people complain that they search for, I don't know, an ingredient or a certain person, but they end up with study data, or they search for a certain person, but they find the author of a document. Long story short, the result data gets all messed up. People don't arrive at with the right results, and the project is kind of a good start, but not really what the initial investment was aiming for, right? So what we're trying to do in our project, and I think this is really where we should end up with this kind of technologies, is making data accessible. So the example I'm giving you here is with that exact customer, and this is where we ended up. So again, we started out with the Active Directory and the database of people, and the file share with exemplary 2 documents here. But what we're able to do is, by extracting the metadata, for example, the authors of the documents, we are able to identify and link that data from the actual documents back to the Active Directory. So seems like a simple insight, right? It's the author of a document. What can I do with it? Well, one thing I can already derive from that is that 2 people are actually co-authors of a single document. So that already gives me a little bit of more insights that I can actually work with, right? So this particular client was talking to a few of his end users and was identifying his users are actually looking for experts in a certain field. So again, we brought in this kind of dictionary that I was explaining before. And again, those 2 ingredients, or I think it's medication, I'm not entirely sure, Nexium and Losec. We could link that data back to the PDFs, because from the metadata or an NLP algorithm, we would know that those papers were written on a certain topic. So by making that connection, we again can derive something else, right? So suddenly we could say, those people have authored several white papers on one single topic, which is why those people have to be experts on those kind of medications. And suddenly you can go in and you have one integrated system instead of 3 siloed systems, right? So what this end user was able to do is we ended up with a system that would immediately give him the exact answer to the questions those end users were asking for. So let's take a step back. The bigger picture here is that we are actually making concealed information visible that was not there before. Sure, the data was there in the systems, but no one really had access to it. And if you think that over thousands and thousands of employees in the company, that's actually making a really big difference. Also, we are arbitraging away a really, really costly process, because to go in and identify experts on a certain topic, well, it might be possible across departments, but the real special topics that people have a lot of knowledge of are usually not visible immediately. And finally, and I think this is the most important message, more in the general AI discussion, is we're empowering people, because suddenly people have access to knowledge and to employee data in this case that was previously no one had in the company. So they are able to arrive at decisions that they maybe just were not able to have before, to do before. And even abstracting that concept, you end up at people identifying ingredients for certain diseases that were not visible before. So this whole concept of expert finding works in many domains very generically. So one thing I want you to take away from my talk today is actually, by doing that, we're changing entire business processes, and therefore also identifying entirely new business models for companies. So what we sometimes see is people implement a system like this, and by the advantage in information they get with this, they are able to shift away and even identify a new stream of revenue. We have airlines able to identify mechanic teams for certain and offer mechanic teams to competitors, because they just are able to arrive at this expert information and at those insights far quicker than everybody else in the industry, and they are able to open up a new revenue stream and profit from that. Thanks a lot for the attention, and I'll be open for questions afterwards, I think. Thank you.